Hello everyone, this is VGTI, and it's time to do more Five Nights at Freddy's theories. This of course comes in time with the recent release of Five Nights at Freddy's 3, which I've been playing extensively because I wanted to do a proper theory video on it, and now I'm finally able to. This is going to be kind of an extension of my last theory, and that seems to be a recurring trend for my videos lately. But with Five Nights at Freddy's 3, because it's a new game, it actually presented newer evidence on the table. It added more to everything that we have to consider, and that goes with my last video. If you guys saw my last Five Nights video, I talked about what I thought happened to the killer, or rather killers, from the series. So let's get right into it. Of course, from this time forward, there are going to be spoilers, so if you haven't played the games, you don't want them spoiled for you, go play them, check them out, because they're so good, and the stories in each one of them are very good, and you don't want them spoiled. So, you know, just my daily spoiler warning for you all. So in my last video, I said that the killers potentially got stuffed inside animatronic suits, more specifically Freddy and Golden Freddy from the first game, and I presented my reasons why I thought that was so. But now with Five Nights 3 out, I've had to reconsider that theory completely, and it's been interesting. I had to rack my brain to figure out what was actually going on. So as you guys know, if you played Five Nights 3 and you beat it, you have seen what happens to the killer, the Purple Man. He actually died inside the Springtrap suit, and he is now basically walking around inside of it, dead, supposedly, and he's the only actual real animatronic in the third game. So that's actually Purple Guy in there. So I was on the right track that he did get stuffed into an animatronic, but I didn't know which one, and we didn't know about Springtrap beforehand, although there have been slight hints. Now, some aspects of my last theory I'm actually keeping the same. For one thing, the two killers. I still believe that the two killers are Phone Guy and the day shift guard that was mentioned in the second game. Phone Guy is not actually a killer. He hasn't actually committed any murders. He's just helping the day shift guard from Five Nights 2 cover up his tracks. He's covering up his crimes, making sure that the law enforcement around keeps off his back, no one gets suspicious, that kind of thing. But as we know, Phone Guy died in Five Nights 1. The reason for that is because the animatronics were setting out to get him first. He was the day shift guard's accomplice in the whole matter, all of the crimes. He helped him cover them up. I think Phone Guy entered the picture later, though, but that's not important right now. What is important is that Phone Guy died in the first game, and the day shift guard, the true killer, the one who has actually been killing the children, is the one who died in the Springtrap suit. There are two reasons I don't believe the the Purple Guy that we saw in Five Nights 3 is the Phone Guy. I believe he's actually the day shift guard, and the reason I think that is because, one, Phone Guy clearly knows how dangerous it is to wear the Springtrap suit. All of his calls on Five Nights 3, or rather all of his old instructional tapes, are just him explaining the dangers of wearing the suit and how you should properly handle it. Meanwhile, we have Purple Guy here, being cornered by dead children and just running into the suit carelessly and making sudden movements, laughing. He's doing all of the wrong things. So it's clear that he can't be Phone Guy. Phone Guy wouldn't do that. He would know that he would be in danger if he did that. And also, their manner of deaths are different. Phone Guy was cornered by the 4 or maybe 5 animatronics in Five Nights 1, and yes, they are possessed by the spirits of the dead children, but they attacked him in animatronic form, as we can hear from the phone call, whereas Purple Guy in Five Nights 3 seemed to be killed by the actual spirits of the dead children, or rather, he wasn't killed by them, he was cornered by them. Springtrap is what killed him, but we clearly see that the suits, the animatronic suits, are broken in the minigame when you're playing as the crying child. Throughout the game, Purple Guy breaks down the suits, and you can see all 4 of them lying on the ground when you're playing as the crying child. So, I believe that this wasn't Phone Guy. Phone Guy died earlier, but this was the day shift guard. So now that we have that cleared up, let's move on to the next point. What was Purple Guy, the day shift guard, even doing there in the first place? Those minigames, if you explore, you can see that those minigames actually take place at the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza from Five Nights 1. So why is the Purple Guy there? People have been theorizing about when these minigames take place, but it's mostly assumed that it takes place after the events of Five Nights 1, after the restaurant has shut down, or possibly shortly before that happens. But it does take place after Five Nights 1. And the Purple Guy, the day shift guard, he goes back to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza from Five Nights 1, that facility, and he actually destroys the animatronic suits. He tampers with them and destroys them, supposedly at nighttime, because there's no one else in the establishment. So why would he do this? Well, Phone Guy's dead. He was killed by the animatronics, and the day shift guard found out about this because Phone Guy was his cohort. He's like, oh no, the animatronics are gonna get me now. They must be possessed by the spirits of the dead children. They're coming to get me. They're gonna get revenge on me. So what he does is he destroys the suits so that they can't do that. But this ends up backfiring against him, and this actually releases the spirits of the dead children to corner him instead. And that's how that all goes down. Now, that's just my revised theory for what I was talking about in part 1, but I actually want to touch on a different subject for this video as a whole. I want to talk about the questions that Five Nights 3 left unanswered. Because Five Nights 3, while it did answer quite a few questions, it also opened up not only some new ones, but also left some hanging. And I want to cover those right now and give my own theories for what actually happened. So first off, let's talk about the Phantom animatronics. Springtrap is the only real animatronic in Five Nights 3, and the rest of the animatronics that attack you are called Phantom animatronics. They are illusions. They disappear when they attack you, and they mess up your systems, but they don't actually exist. Phone Dude, the guy who contacts you on night 1 and 2, he implies that you'll start seeing some crazy stuff if you leave the vents broken too long, and that seems to be the case. If you start running out of oxygen, you'll start seeing crazy things, and voila, here are the Phantom animatronics. They're literally hallucinations because of oxygen deprivation. But have you guys ever thought about what animatronics the protagonist of Five Nights 3 is seeing? He's seeing the toy animatronics from Five Nights 2, as well as the animatronics from Five Nights 1, supposedly. Except for Bonnie, curiously, but that's not my point here. You see Balloon Boy, you see Mangle, you see the Puppet, you see Chica from Five Nights 1, and you see Freddy, also supposedly from Five Nights 1. So that got me thinking, why is the person that we are playing as seeing these hallucinations specifically? Why would he see that? That would imply that he's had past history with those specific animatronics, right? The guy that we're playing as, it's never revealed in the game who he is. Normally you get a check when you beat the game that shows their name at least, but all we know about this guy is that he's a guy and he started working here a week before it opened. But we don't actually know anything about him or who he is, just literally nothing. But the Phantom animatronics seem to hint at who he is, specifically the kind of animatronics he's seeing. That got me thinking about the protagonists that we played as in the past games. There's Mike Schmidt from the first game, there is Jeremy Fitzgerald, the protagonist of the second game, And then there's Fritz Smith, who we play as for one night, the custom night on Five Nights 2. So who could it be? Well, Mike Schmidt is out because he only worked at the facility in Five Nights 1, supposedly. And he's gone now. But what about Jeremy Fitzgerald? He worked at the facility in Five Nights 2, so shouldn't that mean he's the guy we're playing as? Well, I'm a fan of the theory that he was a victim of the bite of 87, and because of that, I don't think Jeremy is very capable of doing much anything anymore. You know what the phone guy said about it's amazing what the human body can do without the frontal lobe. Yeah, I don't think it's Jeremy. So that only leaves one person. Obviously phone guy's out because 1, he's dead, and 2, he was a cohort of the killer. So, is it Fritz Smith? Well, Fritz Smith is the most likely candidate here as far as I can tell. I think that you're playing as Fritz Smith in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. And there's also one very tiny hint towards that, and I will say right off the bat, it's pretty coincidental, and even I'm skeptical of my own evidence here, but the check that Fritz Smith gets in Five Nights 2, when you beat the custom night, it says that he is employee number 3. As in, he is the protagonist of Five Nights 3. I know that is the vaguest connection that I can make, but it's just something I noticed, and I thought it was worth pointing out, at least. But I think you're playing as Fritz Smith in the game. Which leads me on to my next unanswered question from Five Nights 3. What happened in the end of the game? What caused the fire? At the end of the game, Fazbear's Fright burns to the ground, and we don't know why it happened. We do know that foul play could have been involved, as the police aren't ruling it out, but as of now, it's just being assumed that it was caused by faulty wiring. But what really happened? You beat Nightmare Mode and then Fazbear's Fright just suddenly burns to the ground? Phone Dude did mention that the fire could be a serious problem because of the equipment in that place. But I do think foul play was involved. Not because of Springtrap, but because of the guy you're playing as, Fritz Smith. My theory is that after 6 nights of that, he just couldn't take it anymore. He snapped. We only played as him on Custom Night in the second game, and that seems to imply that Fritz is very good with animatronics. He's able to tamper with them and control them. So when he heard about this Fazbear's Fright attraction opening, he probably thought that it would be no big deal, he could do it again, just for fun. But then, he's there for 6 nights, he starts hallucinating a lot because of lack of oxygen. After 6 nights of all of that craziness, he just can't take it anymore, and he burns the place to the ground. That's my theory on what happened, but we still have one more thing that we have to address, and it's probably the most mysterious thing going on in the series still. Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy. What exactly are they? They started as weird hallucinations that you could have in the second game. They were pretty rare, but some players did see them, got pictures of them and everything, and ever since, people have been wondering what they are. But the questions only grew once Five Nights 3 came out because both Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie appear in the game. Shadow Freddy appears in the minigames between the nights, luring the animatronics to the secret room before Purple Guy kills them. And Shadow Bonnie, on the other hand, appears in one of the minigames that you have to play to get the secret ending, the good ending. And Shadow Bonnie's giving a cake to one of the kids. So, once again, what are they? Well, I do have a theory for it, and I don't think that Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy are working together in any sort of way. One of them is being controlled by the puppet, and the other one is just being controlled by Purple Guy. You can probably guess which is which. Think about the roles of both of them in each game. In Five Nights 2, Shadow Bonnie appears in your office. It can appear in your office, and when it does, it can disappear if you put on the mask. but otherwise it'll crash your game. The point here is that it can appear in your office. If you look on the cameras, sometimes you will see Shadow Freddy sitting in one of the rooms, but he can't actually move around. That's the only place where you can see him. So this begs the question, why is Shadow Bonnie moving around? Well, all of the animatronics in the second game are actually being controlled by the puppet. That's one of the things I stated in my last video. Or at least that's what I think is going on. The puppet is controlling all of the animatronics in the second game. The animatronics from the first game are being controlled by the spirits of the 5 dead kids that the purple guy killed. But in the second game, they're all being controlled by the puppet, and this includes Shadow Bonnie. Now, I don't know why the puppet won't control Shadow Freddy, but it's clear that it's not. And then in the third game, Shadow Freddy is walking around, and it's leading them to a room. Now, does this sound familiar? A person wearing a costume and luring people to a room to kill them. The killer is using the exact same method to kill the animatronics that he used to kill the 5 kids. This, of course, ends up backfiring against him because this just releases the spirits of the dead kids to corner him, and he dies due to Springtrap. But that still leaves one question. What exactly are Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy? I mean, yeah, they seem to be weird animatronics of some kind, but what exactly are they? Are they supernatural? Well, the clue comes from Night 4 of Five Nights 3. If you listen to the phone call, Phone Guy mentions that an accident happened at a sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures, so the company has deemed the suits temporarily unfit for employees. So while they wait for the suits to get fixed and they're looked at another location, they're going to have replacement suits come. Now Phone Guy says, until replacements arrive, you'll be expected to wear the temporary costumes provided to you. Keep in mind that they were found on very short notice, so questions about appropriateness, relevance, should be deflected. My theory is that these temporary costumes that Phone Guy mentions are Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy, and he also mentions that questions about appropriateness should be deflected, which seems to imply that people would start questioning why they're using suits like that. And it's understandable, because those suits look really creepy. And the one other connection is that minigame, Stage 1, that you play in Five Nights 3, where you're playing as Freddy, and you're on stage with Spring Bonnie, otherwise known as Springtrap. You know what both of those animatronics are? Bonnie and Freddy. So it makes sense that their replacements would be Bonnie and Freddy. Anyways, guys, that was my compilation of theories on the unanswered questions that Five Nights 3 left at the end. And, well, I want to know what you guys think. Tell me what you think in the comments. Feel free to ask any questions you may have about everything. You know, Fritz Smith being the protagonist, causing the fire, the origins of Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy, and anything else you might be able to think of. If there's anything from the Five Nights series you want me to cover, I will gladly do so. I'll probably do a video on this series again sometime down the line, because there's still plenty to talk about with it. But if there are any other games or theories you want to suggest to me, then please do so. If you guys liked the video, then please like the video. And if you want to see all of my future videos and video game theories, then please subscribe, because there are plenty more where this came from, and I really appreciate every subscription I get. You guys are awesome. So my next video will be in about a week or so. I already have the idea for it planned out, so hopefully I can get started on that soon. But if it's not next week, then it will be the following week, but it should be soon. Thanks, guys.